Thank you, Walton. Did I hear, is Gordon Gibson, has he passed away? Did someone say that Gordon Gibson had passed? Oh, Dale Gibson. Oh, I'm sorry. Gordon Gibson was a longtime minister at Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Elkhart. And the day he retired after 25 years as minister there was the day I took over as the president of that congregation. I have to say it was a pretty rough ride missing him because he did a lot of things that no one knew. And we had to figure out what that was. So at any rate, it's good to be here today. I actually, as I said, I attended this congregation for a few months back in the early 2000s and got pulled in other directions over to Elkhart, where I had some friends. Not that you guys weren't friends, but during that time I was good friends with a guy who was a Roman Catholic. And he was a devout Roman Catholic, and he was the kind of Roman Catholic who thought that everyone should be a Roman Catholic. And but I was, in the meantime, while he was filling me full of that kind of stuff, I was filling him full of our kind of stuff. And one day he came to me, he said, and said in a very smug voice, in a way that suggested I might have been stealing food from orphans, that he had seen the Unitarian Church here in South Bend selling Christmas trees out of their parking lot. Now, how many people remember that? Yeah. Do you still do it? No. Okay. It's a lot of work. Yeah. Okay. Well, at any rate, he says to me, well, I just can't understand. It's just wrong and unethical that you guys sell Christmas tree when you don't even believe in Jesus. And I said, well, at any rate, we're chatting along, and I said, well, the thing is that most of us, many of us Unitarian Universalists are humanists. And so we believe that the stories of the old religions are really a part of our heritage. So really all religions belong to us now. They're all ours. The difference being that in Catholicism, your salvation is in Jesus. But in Unitarian Universalism, we tend to believe that our capacity to live whole lives, which is to save ourselves, really depends upon our capacity to be authentic human beings. But at any rate, he was truly unsatisfied with that answer. And at any rate, let's continue. Let me find the right. Let's hope that someone didn't walk away with my script here. So let's begin with a story you've probably heard before, the parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, is everybody familiar with the parable of the Good Samaritan here? Pretty much, yeah. We all heard that about 1 million times when we were kids. But maybe not quite like this. In 586 BCE, the Babylonians conquered Judah, destroyed the temple in Jerusalem, and carried away many artisans and upper-class Jews off to Babylon. Those who stayed behind, the peasants and laborers, developed their own tradition. They intermarried, they mixed customs. In other words, they embraced diversity. Then, in 539 BCE, Cyrus of Persia conquered Babylon, and the exiles returned. The returnees saw themselves as the true followers of Yahweh, and they rejected those who had remained. Over the next 500 years, the two groups evolved into Jews and Samaritans. By the times of Jesus, their hatred was deep and toxic. So when Jesus told a story about a Samaritan being a hero, it was outrageous. That is why I chose the title for this sermon, How Donald Trump Really Can Save You. I wanted you to feel the same kind of outrage that those who heard Jesus tell the story of the Samaritan felt. Because if you don't get the outrage, you won't get the sermon. This sermon is about how the despicable saves us, transforms us, heals us, makes us whole, makes us compassionate, and restores us to life. You know the story. A man is beaten, robbed, and left for dead on the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. A priest walks by. A Levi walks by. Both do nothing. And then a Samaritan comes by. The outcast, the impure, the hated, the Donald. He's the one who knows, who stops. He's the one who helps. He's the one who heals. This parable is often taught as a lesson in kindness, but it's far deeper than that. And it's really not about being a good neighbor, as the Gospel of Luke suggests. One thing you need to realize that a lot of the biblical material, especially the New Testament, was compiled in the Gospels later, and they took the stories that Jesus told and they put their own context to them. And the context that Luke put around the story of the Good Samaritan was the idea that a lawyer. How many lawyers in the crowd? I know Bill's one. Yeah, a few. Okay. So I got to be careful what I say. So, the way Luke set up the tale up is that a lawyer asked Jesus, who was a good neighbor, what does it mean to be a good neighbor? And that's the story that Jesus told. Now, even as a kid, I knew now that is like totally backwards, because if Jesus was going to be telling people what it meant to be a good neighbor, it would have been the Samaritan that was broken alongside the road. And it would have been a nice Jewish person who came by to help. So it's about the parts of ourselves we reject, the parts we despise. The Samaritan within our inner Donalds, the parts of ourselves we despise and hide are the very ones that save us. So who is who in the story? The beaten man by the road is us, you and me, our incomplete, broken, wounded selves. The priest and the Levite, they're the spit-shine parts of ourselves, our resume-ready selves, our social media highlight selves, our how wonderful a president I am of the UU Fellowship selves, our how lauded a Little League coach I am selves, our we have a condo in Cabo San Lucas selves. But those parts, our priest and Levite parts, can't save us. It's the despised parts, the shadow, the Samaritan, the Donald that transforms and heals. Now back to the title of the sermon, How Donald Trump Really Can Save You. The idea came to me while watching the PBS NewsHour last year during the 2024 campaign. They were showing footage from a Trump rally, and there it was, this huge sign above the podium, I will save you. Now, let me be clear, when I talk about salvation, I'm not talking about being saved from hell or damnation. I'm not fond of those ideas. I'm not here to preach politics. This is not a political sermon. And for our purposes today, salvation means wholeness, being fully present to your life. Ralph Waldo Emerson called it being yourself in a world that opposes being yourself, opposes authentic being. Carl Jung said, every one of us carries a shadow. The parts of ourselves we've rejected are repressed. The Roman poet Terence said over 2,000 years ago, nothing human is alien to me. We all have these parts, selfish, arrogant, brash, dishonest, cruel, loud, manipulative, fascist parts. The part that might brag about getting away with shooting someone on Fifth Avenue, or would like being a dictator or owning slaves. We hide these parts because they weren't safe to show when we were young. Society couldn't tolerate them, and so we couldn't tolerate them either. We shoved them down in the basement of our psyches and locked the door. But Jung thought we must go into our basements and reclaim these estranged parts of ourselves if we want to live whole and vital lives. The journey inward, though, is a difficult one. Jung said the most terrifying thing we can do is to accept ourselves the way we are. Paraphrased a bit, it is truly terrifying to accept our inner Donalds. When we own our Donalds, accept them, we're less likely to project them onto others, less likely to judge, less likely to be swept up in outrage. I have come to believe that a big part of our political turmoil today is because we liberals haven't taken responsibility for our Donalds. It seems likely to me that the torrents of negative energy we liberals have flooded into politics has been instrumental in getting our current president reelected. Our judgment, our outrage, they make us easy targets for manipulation. David Brooks once said, "If you meet a jerk once a month, you met a jerk. If you meet a jerk every day, you're the jerk." Let me rephrase that. If you are outraged at Donald every day, you are the Donald. By way of a quick quiz, how many of you here can honestly say that you have not, for even one day in the last 9 years, thought of Donald Trump or had his name on your lips? Everyone raise their hand who has not done that for even one day. Okay, we have that. So, I yield the pulpit to you, ma'am.
I don't watch the news anymore, and honestly, I've been watching Netflix, I've been reading books, and I can honestly say there have been maybe one day
Okay.
one thing crossed my mind.
Yeah. Well, good. That's quite a spiritual accomplishment, because I have to say that that he is a genius at keeping his name in front of people, and outrage is the vehicle he uses to do that. So when we embrace our Donalds, we become less reactive, more gracious, more compassionate, more forgiving. We become more alive, more creative, more joyful. We have the energy to fight the political battles that we so badly need to fight in this country. And we do need to fight, but the battle has to be fought on the ground of creative, compassionate, authentic being, not on the strength of our outrage. And the battle that most needs to be fought before the political battle is a battle within, to reclaim those lost territories of our own souls. Ezra Taft Benson rightly said, "The greatest battles you will ever face will be fought within the silent chambers of your own soul." How many people know who Ezra Taft Benson is? Anybody? Okay. He is a past Secretary of Agriculture, so I was surprised to find that out myself. When we reclaim the lost territories of the soul, the Greek playwright Aeschylus tells us in the story of the Furies, who were being the vengeance who torment Orestes in Athens, but the goddess didn't destroy them. She acknowledged them, dressed them in fine clothing, gave them a place in the city's ritual, and they became the Eumenides, the good ones, kindly protectors of justice. What was terrifying became sacred. Darkness transformed into light. Soul reclaimed. Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas said, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you." Now let me paraphrase. If you keep hiding your Donald, it will destroy you. But if you bring your Donald, your tendencies to darkness, into the light, it will save you. The light of consciousness transforms darkness. When the light shines in the darkness becomes the light. Now, a story that's a little harder to tell. Over 40 years ago, I was serving 2 small conservative churches in Jay County, Indiana. A traveling evangelist came into town. My congregants were very excited. They wanted me to have a role in the revival. They asked if I'd stand at the altar with other ministers in the area to pray with people they came to give their lives to Jesus during the altar call following the preaching. I very reluctantly said yes, because I'm not really an altar call kind of guy. You guys don't want one, do you? No. The revival was packed. The evangelist preached fire and brimstone for over an hour. When the evangelist wound down and the altar call began, I took my place with the other ministers. A 12-year-old boy came up to me, trembling, terrified that he and his parents would go to hell. It broke my heart, so I made something up. I said, "The evangelist forgot to mention the grace period. 2 or 3 days after you die, you get to look around and decide if you want heaven or hell. Most people choose heaven, and no matter what you initially choose, you can change your mind anytime you like." The boy walked away much calmer. I walked away furious. I was outraged. The next morning, I scrapped my prepared sermon and preached on the inerrancy of the Bible, a belief I found ridiculous, but my parishioners found sacred. I used Acts 5, the only economic model found in the Bible, where all Christians are required to give their wealth to church elders for distribution as needed. 1,800 years before Marx introduced the idea of communism, or formally introduced it. So I suggested that my congregants hand over their stocks, bonds, and deeds to me, a newly ordained elder. Needless to say, it was not one of my most successful endeavors from the pulpit. My congregation, a really great group of people, pretty much forgave me, owing to my youth and inexperience. But word got out. I was banned from the local ministerial association. My Good Friday sermon slot, which I had already prepared, was revoked. At the community 4th of July service, the president of the association implied, without using my name, any names, that I was going to hell and taking my congregation with me. Looking back over the years, I realized that my sermon and my outrage weren't about the evangelist and his silly, grotesque religious beliefs. It was about me, my own anger, my own need for drama, my own love of cruelty, my Donald. I like stirring the pot. There's a part of me that enjoys hurting people, that loves being outrageous. So when I saw that sign at the Trump rally, "I will save you," I had to laugh, because in a weird way, it's true. Donald Trump can save you. Not the Donald Trump in the Oval Office, the Donald hidden in the basement of your psyches, the darkness you most despise. It's the part you need to reclaim. So salvation is not about escaping who you are, it's about being who you are. In all your beauty, in all your brokenness, in all your courage, and in all your contradictions. Bring forth what is within you, and what is within you will save you. And now let's take a moment for a meditation. So I invite you now to settle into stillness, to take a deep breath in